What if the story of humanity, the one meticulously pieced together by science and history, is missing its most important chapter? What if our true genesis lies not in the slow crawl from the primordial ooze, but in the catastrophic fall of a civilization so advanced, so ancient, that its very existence has been dismissed as a madman's dream? We are taught that we are the pinnacle of evolution on this planet. But what if we are merely the inheritors of a forgotten world? What if we are the echoes of a superior race that walked the earth when the continents themselves were different? Today, we journey beyond the veil of accepted history into the phantom realm of the Indian Ocean to seek the ghost of a lost motherland. We are going in search of Lemuria.
Welcome to Secrets of the Ancients, where ancient mysteries awaken.
Every ghost story needs a name. The ghost continent that haunts the deep waters of the Indian Ocean got its name not from some ancient, forgotten text, but from a 19th century scientist trying to solve a very real puzzle. The fascinatingly mundane origin is laid out in the lore like this. In 1864, the zoologist Philip Sclater first proposed the concept of a continent where Lemuria was located, and the name itself was derived from the lemurs believed to have inhabited these regions. Think about that for a second. The whole epic saga of a lost spiritual motherland starts with a biologist scratching his head over lemur fossils. Sclater was stuck. He had fossils of these strange primates in India and on the island of Madagascar, but nowhere in between. The science of his day didn't have an answer, so he proposed one. A massive land bridge, a continent that had since sunk beneath the waves. He gave it a name that was both scientific and spooky. Lemuria, after the lemurs, whose own name comes from the Latin lemuries, ghosts or spirits of the night. Science itself, in its quest for answers, inadvertently named a ghost. Of course, today we have plate tectonics, the theory that tells us India, Madagascar, and Africa were all once nestled together in the supercontinent Gondwana. Sclater's land bridge was no longer needed, but it was too late. The idea was out of the bottle. He had given a name and therefore a potential reality to a phantom. And humanity, it seems, has a deep-seated need for phantom continents. It's a classic case of an idea being too good to let go. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn from modern science to ancient memory. Because a name for this place already existed, thousands of years before Sclater and his lemurs. The ancient traditions of India spoke of their own submerged continent long before the 1864 theory, calling it Kumari Kandam. Now we're talking. This isn't a scientific hypothesis anymore. This is soul history. Kumari Kandam, the Virgin Continent, is a cornerstone of ancient Tamil tradition. The stories speak of a vast, thriving civilization, the cradle of the Tamil people, ruled for eons by the Pandyan kings. It was a world of profound learning, home to the first two sangams, or literary councils, where enlightened poets and scholars laid the very foundations of culture. This wasn't just a place to live. It was a paradise on earth, which was violently ripped away from them by the ocean in a great cataclysm. What we have here is a stunning convergence. A modern, Western scientific theory, born from logic and fossil records, accidentally stumbles upon and gives a new name to an ancient, Eastern spiritual memory, born from poetry and catastrophic loss. For the mystics and occultists of the late 19th century, this was everything. It was the proof they had been looking for. They took the Kumari Kandam legends and fused them with the new, scientific-sounding name Lemuria. It was the perfect marriage of myth and modernity. This convergence suggests we're not just dealing with stories. We're tapping into a universal human archetype, the lost paradise. The Garden of Eden, Atlantis, Kumari Kandam, Lemuria, they are all different names for the same deep, aching feeling. A feeling that we came from somewhere greater than this, that we are survivors of something terrible. It begs the question, is this just a psychological need for a better origin story? Or is it a genuine, species-wide trauma? An echo of a real event so devastating that it has been passed down for millennia, not as history, but as myth. So who were these Lemurians? If you were expecting early humans in loincloths, you're in for a shock. The lore describes them in a way that is simply breathtaking, painting a picture of beings that are to us what we are to apes. It's a vision of a completely different order of existence. The legends claim the Lemurians' lives lasted more than a millennium. Their height was about 4 to 5 meters. They had 3 eyes, 2 in front and 1 behind, as well as 4 hands. They lacked digestive and some other human organs, relying on energy from nature for their sustenance. They were said to be highly spiritual, possessing extraordinary supernatural powers, including telepathy, levitation, and clairvoyance. Let's unpack this, because every detail here is a profound philosophical statement. This isn't just a fantasy, it's a blueprint for a perfected being. First, the stature and lifespan, 15 feet tall, living for over 1,000 years. In every myth, from the Bible's Nephilim to the Greek Titans, primordial beings were giants. Height symbolizes a closeness to the divine, a higher perspective. But the lifespan is the real key. If you live for a millennium, your entire perception of reality changes. You don't see history, you see geology. You witness mountains rise and fall. You think in terms of cosmic cycles, not quarterly earnings. Your consciousness operates on a planetary scale. Now for the physiology, and this is where it gets truly wild. The 4 arms in Hindu iconography signify divine power, the ability to operate on multiple planes of reality at once. So imagine a being whose every action is multidimensional. Perhaps 2 arms interact with our physical world, while the other 2 are manipulating energy, healing, or creating in the astral plane. It's an existence beyond the linear cause and effect reality we're stuck in. And the 3 eyes. We all know the 3rd eye on the forehead, the pineal gland, the seat of psychic vision, but a 3rd eye on the back of the head. That is a truly radical concept. What does it mean? It means total perception, complete awareness. You have no blind spot. There is no shadow self lurking in your subconscious, because nothing is unseen. It represents a state of psychological and spiritual wholeness that is almost impossible for us to comprehend. A state without fear of the unknown because nothing is unknown. Finally, their sustenance. No digestive organs. They subsisted directly on prana, on the life force of the cosmos. This is the ultimate statement of spiritual evolution. Digestion is what anchors us to the material plane. It's a messy, violent process of consumption and decay. The Lemurians had transcended it. They were in perfect symbiosis with their world, living not on the planet but with it. They were less like animals and more like living, conscious crystals, conduits for divine energy. Their supernatural powers then weren't magic. They were just biology. Telepathy is the natural form of communication for beings of pure consciousness. Spoken language is for those who have forgotten how to connect directly. Levitation is the natural result of a consciousness that understands its primacy over matter. And clairvoyance, the ability to see the future, is simply what happens when you live for 1,000 years and perceive the world from all directions at once. You don't have to predict the future. You can see the patterns. You can feel the great cosmic tides turning. They knew the cataclysm was coming, not because they looked into a crystal ball, but because They were intimately connected to the life and consciousness of the planet itself. They could feel its pain. Every great story needs a great conflict, and the story of our planet's mythic prehistory is defined by one fundamental, epic struggle. A tale of two continents, two civilizations, two completely different paths for the evolution of consciousness. Lemuria and its legendary rival, Atlantis. The lore makes a sharp distinction. Unlike the Atlanteans, the Lemurians possessed no material wealth and demonstrated no material prosperity. They were primarily focused on spirituality and the divine. Some theories even suggest that the Lemurians predated the Atlanteans, supporting the notion that spirit came before matter. This is the core of it all. This isn't just a war story. It's a grand, planetary allegory for the oldest debate in philosophy: spirit versus matter, yin versus yang, the path of the yogi versus the path of the technocrat. Lemuria represents the path of internal evolution. Their goal was the perfection of the soul. Their technology was consciousness itself. They didn't need to build machines to manipulate the world, because they had learned to manipulate the world with their minds. They represent the archetype of the sage, whose power is subtle, intuitive, and in harmony with nature. The idea that they came before Atlantis is a crucial metaphysical claim. It says that in the cosmic order, consciousness must precede manifestation. Spirit must exist before it can be housed in matter. Atlantis is the polar opposite. It represents the path of external evolution. Their goal was the perfection of the material world. Their technology was legendary: energy crystals, genetic manipulation, powerful vehicles, advanced weaponry. They sought to conquer the laws of nature through intellect and invention. They are the archetype of the engineer, the king, whose power is overt, logical, and seeks to dominate nature. For a time, these two primordial powers may have existed in balance. But according to the legend, that balance was shattered by a corruption that grew in the heart of Atlantis. The story says the conflict began when depraved Atlanteans, who called themselves the Sons of Belial, started to dispute the Lemurians for global dominance. The Atlanteans sought to subjugate all other tribes on Earth. The Lemurians, on the other hand, advocated for the natural evolution of other societies and called for non-interference. Here we have the fall from grace. The Sons of Belial, a name dripping with connotations of arrogance and evil, represent technology and intellect untethered from wisdom. It's the dark side of the materialist path: power without compassion, ambition without ethics. Their desire to subjugate the rest of the world is the ultimate expression of this mindset. It's a belief that their way is the only way, that all of reality must be forced to conform to their will. It's the logic of the machine, of the empire. The Lemurian stance of non-interference is the philosophical opposite. You might call it the primordial prime directive. As a spiritually advanced race, they understood that consciousness cannot be forced. Every soul, every culture, must find its own path to enlightenment. To impose your progress on another is an act of spiritual violence. This is the conflict: the free will of the evolving spirit versus the controlling logic of the perfected machine. It's a timeless parable that plays out over and over again in our own recorded history. It's the story of empires crushing indigenous cultures in the name of civilization. It's the story of ideologies demanding total conformity. The war between Lemuria and Atlantis isn't just a fantasy about a lost world. It's a diagnosis of a spiritual sickness, a fundamental schism in the soul of consciousness itself. A war between gods can only have one outcome: the unmaking of the world. The climax of the conflict between these two super-civilizations was not just a battle, it was a planetary reset button pushed with devastating force. The legends claim the submerged lands of Lemuria and Atlantis were destroyed as a result of a nuclear conflict. This war led to a global disaster, which was further exacerbated by the igniting of underground gas reserves, leading to the deaths of over 60 million Lemurians. The concept of an ancient nuclear war is a distinctly modern update to the myth, and it's a chilling one. Before the 20th century, these cataclysms were blamed on angry gods or natural disasters. But after 1945, after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, humanity gained a terrifyingly concrete framework for understanding Armageddon. We finally had a weapon that could literally wipe a civilization off the map. Projecting that fear into the ancient past reframes the entire legend. It transforms it from a myth about divine wrath into a profoundly tragic cautionary tale. They weren't struck down by a meteor, they committed suicide. The Atlanteans, in their technological hubris, unleashed a power they couldn't control, a weapon of absolute destruction. In their attempt to dominate spirit, they annihilated matter itself. It's the ultimate lesson. When technological power outpaces spiritual wisdom, the result is always self-destruction. The detail about igniting underground gas reserves is terrifyingly prescient. It speaks to a level of ecological blowback, a cascading planetary failure. They didn't just break their enemies' cities, they broke the planet's operating system. The weapons triggered earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and polar shifts. It's a powerful, mythic warning about climate change and environmental collapse. It tells us that a war on our fellow man is ultimately a war on the Earth, and the planet will have the final say. Proponents of this theory point to strange, unexplained evidence. Vast fields of vitrified sand in deserts around the world, as if they were flash-fused by immense heat. Anomalous radiation levels found in the ruins of ancient cities like Mohenjo-Daro. While science offers other explanations, for believers, these are the radioactive ghosts of an ancient, world-ending war. But even in absolute devastation, the story doesn't end. It begins anew. From the smoking ruins of a broken world, a handful of survivors from both continents emerged, carrying the fragmented memories of a lost golden age. The legends say that the few remaining Lemurians scattered across the earth, laying the foundations of today's human civilization. When their continent disappeared beneath the waves, its inhabitants scattered and created different civilizations, turning their lost motherland into the lost birthplace of all civilization. This is the part of the story that speaks directly to us. This is the proposed secret history of our own origins. The theory suggests that the great founding civilizations we know, Egypt, Sumer, the Indus Valley, the Maya, didn't just spring up out of the mud. They were kickstarted by the arrival of these powerful, godlike survivors. These were the civilizing heroes of myth, the beings who came from the sea or the sky to give primitive humanity the seeds of knowledge. Writing, mathematics, law, and the secrets of building with stone. This completely inverts the standard model of history. It reframes our past not as a slow, steady climb of progress, but as a long, slow descent from a previous peak, followed by a desperate attempt to climb back up. The pyramids aren't the pinnacle of a new civilization's achievement. They are the fading echo of a far older one's science. This diaspora of survivors was popularized and given immense detail by modern visionaries, who claim to be able to access this lost history directly. Figures like the famous occultist Helena Blavatsky, in her 1888 book The Secret Doctrine, presented Lemuria and the Lemurians as the very genesis of the human race. And later, Edgar Cayce, one of the most famous clairvoyants in history, spoke often of the Lemurians in his visions. You can't talk about Lemuria without talking about Blavatsky and Cayce. They are the chief architects of the modern myth. Blavatsky created a sweeping cosmic history of root races. To her, the Lemurians were the giant, ethereal third root race, followed by the technological but corrupt Atlanteans, the fourth, and then us, the fifth. She was offering a spiritual alternative to Darwinism, a story of spiritual involution and evolution, not just biological survival of the fittest. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, made it personal. Through his thousands of psychic readings, he gave everyday people stories of their own past lives as souls living in the harmonious, nature-loving society of Lemuria, or the conflicted, technological world of Atlantis. This was a game changer. Suddenly, Lemuria wasn't just a myth, it was your personal history. It was the source of your soul's deepest longings and traumas. This is why the idea took such a powerful hold in American spirituality. It offered a narrative that was both epic in scope and deeply intimate, providing a sense of purpose and a connection to a sacred past that was missing from the modern world. For those who believed, the proof of Lemuria wasn't buried under the ocean. It was buried in their own soul. So after our long journey through myth, science, and metaphysics, we are left with the ultimate question: is Lemuria real? Did a race of four-armed, telepathic giants truly walk the earth and wage a cosmic war with the magicians of Atlantis? Perhaps that is the wrong question to ask. The enduring power of the Lemurian myth does not depend on its literal truth. Its power lies in the profound philosophical and psychological needs it fulfills. The story of Lemuria is a vessel for some of our deepest human longings. One, the longing for meaning and origin. The myth gives us a grand and noble origin story. It tells us that we are not a cosmic accident, but the fallen children of gods. It imbues our existence with a hidden purpose, to remember who we are and reclaim our lost spiritual heritage. In a secular, often chaotic world, this provides a powerful sense of identity and destiny. 2, a critique of modernity. The story is a powerful critique of our own civilization. In the legend of the fall of Atlantis, we see a chilling reflection of our own world's problems. Our obsession with technology at the expense of nature, our endless conflicts over resources and ideology, and our possession of weapons that could destroy us all. Lemuria represents the road not taken, a vision of a world based on harmony, not conflict, on consciousness, not consumption. It serves as a reminder that progress is not just about building better machines, but about becoming better beings. 3, the hope of rebirth. The story does not end with destruction. It ends with the survivors seeding new civilizations. This is a message of profound hope. It suggests that even after the most devastating cataclysm, life and consciousness endure. It implies that the knowledge of the Golden Age is not truly lost, but is merely dormant, hidden in our DNA, in our deepest myths, and in the energy of the planet itself. It whispers that the potential for a new Lemuria, a new Golden Age, lies waiting to be reborn within each of us. The ghost of Lemuria haunts us not because it was necessarily a real place of earth and stone, but because it is a very real place in our collective consciousness. It is the memory of our own potential. It is the dream of a unified, enlightened humanity living in harmony with the cosmos. Whether this dream is a memory of a forgotten past or a prophecy of a possible future is the great secret we are all here to discover. The search for Lemuria is, in the end, the search for the deepest and best parts of ourselves. The ancestors are calling. Are we ready to listen? If this journey into the mysteries of our past has awakened your curiosity, subscribe to Secrets of the Ancients. Support our work by liking this video and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. What do you believe? Is Lemuria a myth, a memory, or a message? Join the conversation.